Hello again, everyone. In this video, we're going to take a look at something called a database link. A database link is an object inside of an Oracle database that allows you to connect to another database from the one that you're logged in as. This is really useful for organizations that have data spread out in different databases. By establishing a database link to another database, I can perform a query that pulls information from multiple databases simultaneously. If I didn't have the ability to do that, if I wanted to share data between different databases, I'd have to export them from one database, import them into the other database. This way, I have the ability to go in and pull information from multiple databases, multiple schemas, different databases simultaneously. I'm not limited to just querying information through a database link. I can insert, I can update, I can delete, I can do pretty much anything that I can do in my local database, I can do on my remote database through my database link. So it's a really powerful feature that allows you to grab information from different databases simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and create a database link, and then we'll pull some information back to show how database links work. If you watch my other videos, you know I'm a big fan of Oracle SQL Developer. It's a free tool from Oracle. So I'm going to go through here, and I have a connection to my local database, which is called Sandbox, which is running on my Windows box here. And I'm going to establish a database link over to my Linux box, and I have an eBusiness Suite instance running on my Linux box called VIS for the Vision Demo Database, for those of you familiar with the eBusiness Suite. I'm going to establish a database link over to my Linux box and then pull information back and show you how it works. We're going to see that we can't just go in and create a database link from scratch. There's a couple of things we have to do beforehand, but I'm going to start walking you through the steps to show you what it looks like. So here are all the different objects that I can own as the sys user inside my local Sandbox database, and you can see one of the things here is a database link. So if I right click on that and I say new database link, it brings me up a wizard that gives me the ability to start going through and create it. So the first thing is, do I want to make this a public database link, obviously available to anybody who logs into the system, or is it a private database link? If I make it private, I can then control access to the database link. I can grant privileges on the database link, so some users will be able to go through the link to get to information, some users won't. In this case, I'll make it a public database link, and I can call it anything I want. So in this example, I'm going to call it link to EBS. Here's my fixed user information. How do I want to connect to my other database? I can specify a user here, but here's where we're going to have a problem. I have to specify a service name. What in the world is a service name? Well, anytime you connect to an Oracle database, you use something locally on your machine called tnsnames.ora file. And the tnsnames.ora file is a way of specifying all the different databases that you have access to inside your organization or inside your domain. The tnsnames.ora file has kind of a funky format to it. I'm going to pull it up right now to show you what one looks like. So in my Oracle home, in this case it's C Oracle DB product 11.2.0 DB home underscore 1. That's my Oracle home. There's always a directory underneath that called network, and there's a directory underneath that called admin. And you can see that there's this file inside that directory called tnsnames.ora. So if I edit that file, you can see that it does have this kind of funky format. There's two entries. There's one here called Oracle Connection Data and this other one called Sandbox. And Sandbox is obviously my local database that's running on my Windows box. There's four things that are encapsulated in every entry inside the tnsnames.ora. There's the protocol that you're going to use to connect to a database, the host of where the database lives, the port number that the listener is listening on for that database, and then the actual instance name itself. So in this case, you can see I'm using TCP/IP protocol. My local host is called ASCII1 4thmonth.com. My listener is listing on 1521, and the Sandbox is the name of my database instance that I've been using for all these demos. I can call the actual connection anything I want. I can call this XYZ if I wanted to, but obviously it doesn't make sense to have an XYZ connection to a Sandbox database unless you have some weird naming convention inside your organization. So if I want to make a new entry in here, and I want to make an entry for my Linux machine and my VIS database that's running on that guy, I can do it one of two ways. I can either edit this file by hand, or I can use one of the wizards. I'm always nervous to edit a file like this by hand because, there's so many parentheses, and this has to be encapsulated in this, and this one has to be in here. It's really easy to make a mistake. So I'm going to use the wizard, and unfortunately this doesn't show up on my record window, but there's a tool that Oracle gives you called a Net Configuration Assistant. And the Net Configuration Assistant is exactly what it sounds like. It configures all of your network files that are out there. So if you're running a server that has an Oracle database running, you can configure the listener. You can configure your local tnsnames.aura file. Just so there's no conflict, I'm going to close the tnsnames.aura file, and I'm going to go through the Net Configuration Assistant wizard. I can change the listener, naming methods, directory usage. In this example, I'm going to change the local net service name. So if I go in here, it's actually reading the tnsnames.aura file, and as you can see in the background here, it's created this temporary file for me automatically because it's working with that file as we speak right now. So what do I want to do? I want to add a new entry. The service name is going to be the database's service name. That's local. Normally, it's global database name. Enter the service name of the database of the other service you want to access. So in this case, it's going to be VIS, and that stands for the Vision Demo database that comes with the eBusiness Suite. You don't have to install it. It's just a way of giving you a practice environment. So it's called VIS. Then it's going to start asking me all of the questions that we saw specified in the tnsnames.aura. What protocol do I want to use? I want to use TCP. What's the host name? And because I'm not running a DNS server locally, I'm going to punch in the actual IP address of my server. Use a standard port of 1521. Yeah, let's perform a test. Let's make sure I set up everything okay. Connecting, test successful. Everything looks good. So I click on next. There's my net service name. Again, I can call this anything I want. I'll call it VIS for now. Do I want to configure another service name? Nope. Configuration complete. I exit out of here. I go back and I look at my tnsnames.aura. If I edit that file again, I now have 3 entries. I have my sandbox, the original Oracle connection data, and now I have this VIS connection that I'm going to use as part of my database link. So got all those guys working. So now I can specify, okay, what service name do I want to use? I'm going to use the VIS service name. And do I want to create this link as a fixed user or as a current user, as my current user who I'm logged in? Well, I don't want to create it as a sys user. I have an OE schema that I'm going to use. So I click on OK. And it says new database link was not found in the database. I'm not sure what happened there. It looks like a SQL developer just kind of burped on us for a second. But it did successfully create the database link. And as you can see here under database link, there's no plus sign. So did it really create the database link? Well, yes, it did, because we made it a public database link. So if we go under public now, we can see that we have this link to EBS at fourthmonth.com. The link was actually created. I can right click on it and test the database link if I want to, and it'll just give me a real simple SQL statement to go ahead and test, and it says, okay, everything looks like it tested successfully. So now I'm connecting to my other database as the OE user. Under my current database, I also have an OE user. So we can test the difference between those two by going into our sandbox, and if I say select table name from all tables where owner equal to OE, and then I go ahead and run that guy. If I space it properly, you can see there's all of the tables that are part of OE. And as you can see, we have 10 tables altogether. If I want to go through my database link, I could say select table name from all tables, but instead of saying all tables, which is locally, I can put @ and say link to EBS, and it will now resolve that link, go to the all tables view in my Linux database, and find all the information that's there. So if I click on OK again, you can see I don't have 10 tables. I have all these different tables that are associated with the OE scheme. I have 119 tables. So if I wanted to look at, let's say, SO entities, I have no idea what's in that table. But if I want to do a query from that now, I can say select star from OE dot SO entities. And if I just run it this way, it's going to try to resolve it locally. So it's going to tell me this guy doesn't exist, right? So I try to run it and go, sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. But if I put the link at the end, link to EBS, and run that guy again, queries the information. It's going out to my Linux server and pulling back the information right now. So you can see how it opens up a lot of different possibilities for you to say, hey, I have some local data and I have some remote data, and I want to pull those in, both of those pieces together. You can do that with a database link. One of the things to watch out for is if you make a public database link and you grant all the privileges on that link, anyone can go in there and they can update information, query information. You have to make sure that all your security system settings are set properly so you don't have people misusing the database link to these other databases. But as you can see, by creating a database link inside your existing database, you have the ability to go out to other instances inside your domain and pull back information. And it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of merging a lot of your different information together from a lot of these different databases that may make up your Oracle domain.